Happy holidays and welcome to another episode of Cinematic Anarchy, where we have a movie that was chosen for us today, and thank you very much for this.
Who was it chosen by?
Me.
Oh.
I ran a couple of movies out there, and then she said Red Snow, and I'm like, okay, let's do that.
You had the option.
I was
wasn't
under the
consistent.
impression this was Chris's suggestion.
No, this was.
No.
I think I was sick last year, and you were gone. And the only thing I want to watch when I'm sick is trashy vampire shit movies. And I was like, "Wow, this looks like it fits the bill." And it was free on Tubi, so I put it on, and it was memorable. So when you were like Christmas horror movie, I was like, "Oh, I got one."
Well, this was Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Horror, that's a very loose use of that term for this
Yeah.
movie. But yeah,
well,
with
there are
us today.
different kinds of horror.
Yeah. Well, it had horror monsters in it. There was a whole scary-ish scene at the end where she gets kicked out of her house.
Kinda. Yeah. It was sort of a revenge thing at the end more than anything else. It was scary
Yeah.
for all of like 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Justice.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.5 minutes. Maybe. Well, let me let you introduce yourselves. I tried a couple times. And then I was just like, I'll let them.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Rachel. We do the Strange and Beautiful book club. And now...
Etc.
I know. In addition to... We
You've got your own network.
Basically, we just, chronically unable to sit still. We just started We Are All Kosh, which is our Babylon 5 rewatch.
I am chronically unable to commit to a schedule.
Mm.
That is a really big problem for me, and I'm realizing it as the winter months hit, and I haven't released an episode in 3 weeks.
It happens.
It's just I have too damn much to do.
Mm.
It's the holidays. I'm basically helping out 2 families on top of making sure that my son is able to get gifts for his friends, and then blah, 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 blah. It's just a lot. I have like 10 adopted kids.
That is
sure
many
the parents
kids.
know that we adopted them, but we have 10 adopted kids.
Unofficially. Kind of officially. It happens.
And,
I feel like this is
In
when...
the most important ways.
This is when I envy the podcasts that do seasons, where they have like a season and then it
And then
ends
they
at a
take a
certain point,
hiatus.
and then they're off, and then they're like, "Ooh, season 2 is coming," and I'm like, "Oh, I get it."
I think next year I'm just going to go low pressure because I have like 3 different people that are barking at me to try something new. And one person that was going to commit to something new, but she's gotten extremely busy. And so that whole thing that I basically brought her on the podcast several times, she was kind of the co-host, Piper, you know her.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And her life has just become extremely busy. And it's like, well, I can understand that, getting to this point in your life where keeping a roof over your head is important.
Yeah, go figure.
So, yeah, I can understand that. So do your thing. So Buffy and Friends is on hiatus until we can figure that one out. However, the person that wanted to do the Buffy side of things has decided she wants to try to do a completely different podcast. And so I've somehow managed to commit myself to the end of next month, bulk recording episodes for a Bob's Burgers podcast.
That sounds fun. I've never watched Bob's Burgers.
Mm-mm.
I have watched most of it.
I did watch Archer, and there was a crossover episode, and that is as close as it gets.
Because it's the same voice actor,
Because it's
right?
the same voice actor.
Yeah.
So he disappears, and they find him, and he's cooking burgers in a burger shop. And he's like, "I don't know why. This just felt right." And that's as close as I got.
And I watched Archer over Rachel's shoulder.
Yeah.
Bob's Burgers is not a bad show, though it was a bit more... It was a little darker in humor in the early seasons. That's because originally the show was supposed to revolve around a family of cannibals.
Oh.
So
Oh,
But they decided that wasn't family friendly enough, and so they moved away from that. But it
Go
still had a lot of
figure.
the darker humor.
from what I've seen, it reminded me of Daria
Hmm.
as
I-
far as the like sad dark humor.
I'm trying to think of like what I could even compare it to. I want to say Daria mixed with a little bit of Simpsons mixed with a. I don't think it was another show that I was thinking of off the top of my head, but if I remember it, I'll throw it in there. I can't remember it right now. It'll be one of those ADHD things while we're in the middle of talking about the
It'll just
movie.
pop
I'll just
up.
yell it out, you know,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
out of context completely.
This
So
is
anyway,
a safe space. You can
today,
do that anytime you want.
we haven't even introduced the movie. I don't think. Did we mention
You
the name
said
of the
Red
movie yet?
Snow. Yeah.
Did I say Red Snow?
Yeah, earlier. You
Uh,
blamed me for it.
I said thank you for this. There were points of the movie that I enjoyed, and there were points of the movie where I was like, "Oh, great, a commercial! I can get up."
It took us 3 sittings to watch this
It
movie.
really did. And it's
I've-
less than 90 minutes.
I have never been so thankful for Tubi commercials before. Usually, I complain about them. So it's like, oh, good, I can get up for what 2 minutes. Okay, good. Let's go wander around and get some snacks and something that makes the next 15 to 20 minutes before commercials
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
tolerable. Why don't you break it down for us? What did you make me watch?
Rachel, what did you make us watch?
I love that the tagline is like Misery meets Lost Boys, and it is
No.
neither of those things.
I feel a little bit of the misery
like
thing.
slight, like the
A little
only because
bit.
she's a writer.
There's a writer and there's vampires.
She's a vampire romance novelist, and she lives on Lake Tahoe in this house that she inherited from her mother. And she's currently a failed novelist because everywhere she sends it doesn't want her book.
So she
and-
has a whole drawer of rejection letters.
Right. And it's getting close to Christmas, and we know because we're doing this cool time passing
The
thing where
advent
she's
calendar of drawers of candy was really cool.
Yeah, I liked that as like a how many days we're passing thing. And then a bat hits her window and she saves the bat. Which my favorite scene in the whole movie is when she's putting the Band-Aid on the bat. She's like,
Squeamish look on her face. Just,
Yeah.
ew, oh.
and then she does all that. Then she puts it in a shoebox and sticks it in her garage. Like, that's fine. Like,
It's
enough
totally
care
not
for
going
the
to be
bat.
freezing in your garage.
And then lo and behold, it is in fact a vampire that got shot by a crossbow, and she has to nurse him back to health.
Oh, I thought that's just how you grow vampires. You just feed them a little bit of water that they grow overnight in a shoebox.
Right.
No?
Yeah. And then you go
Okay.
get them pig's blood from the grocery store.
Which they're
Huh.
practically giving it away.
Right. And then she ends up having to like entertain him. So she gives him her manuscript and he reads it as like penance after he murders somebody in front of her. The vampire hunter who shows up.
Vernon
And-
Wells.
Yeah. And so
Come on,
he
that,
reads
the
it.
best part of the movie, Vernon Wells.
And he ends up providing her with commentary.
Oh, interruption.
Hold, please.
Hold, please.
Amos.
I'd like to hold.
Can you please say yes to what I asked for?
Yeah, I can. Okay, buddy, I gotta go. We're recording an episode, okay? Okay. Sorry.
And young man makes a guest appearance.
My son. Anyway, he ends up giving her a bunch of helpful pointers like don't name your vampire character Vladimir and don't set it in Romania.
Name your vampire Zach. I loved that.
Yeah,
Zach.
he's like, how about Zach? Zach's a great name.
I mean, if you like Saved by the Bell, maybe.
Yeah, and she's like, how about Ethan? I'm like, better name.
Better.
And so then, of course, his vampire cronies show up and mayhem ensues. And then ultimately she realizes he actually is a bad guy and not whatever romantic character she's made him out to be in her head. And so she shoots him. You think that's the end, but it turns out she imprisons him for his helpful advice. And another favorite scene is when she's like, "Okay, what notes do you have for me?" And she takes his notebook and it's just blood written over and over again. And she's like, "Well, that's not very constructive now, is it?"
I think one of the better scenes in the movie, going back to the pig's blood when she first gives it to him, and he basically describes the taste of pig's blood to be like a craft beer versus drinking warm piss.
Yeah.
Right. And then she goes into like a monologue about how sanitary piss is and this, that, and the other thing.
Well,
and he's just like,
you can actually drink that.
it's like, he's absolutely confused about how that got out of hand. And he's just like, what?
Did not expect the conversation to go that way.
I thought they did a pretty good job. They filmed this movie in like 12 days or something on Lake Tahoe.
There's definitely some good humor in the movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the humor of it. This is not Lost Boys, nor is it Misery.
No. I like when she calls the Sevron group. One, he tells her that they've wiped out unicorns and candy elves. And he's like, "Have you ever met a candy elf?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "That's because they fucking killed them all."
And they're as amazing as they sound.
And then later she's like, "You lied to me about candy elves," which is a really weird thing to lie about, by the way. But the Sevron group guy, yeah, he's like, "We're not Doctors Without Borders. We don't have unlimited resources." He's like, "I can pencil you in about June." She's like, "I'm gonna wait until June to kill these vampires and get my house back." And he's like, "I guess." I don't know.
And then she said, no, I'll do it myself. Don't they reach out to her to become part of the Sevron group?
At the very end. Yeah, when she's filling out he's like, "Wow, you had some pretty good information about how to kill vampires in this book." And she's like, "Yeah, I did, didn't I?" Like it was hard. She just shot them with a crossbow.
Yeah, he invites her and she just says, "I prefer to write about them."
Yeah.
These were essentially some of the most inept vampires I've ever met.
I mean,
Yeah.
Although I do like being out in sunlight. Feels like you're getting kicked in the balls over and over and over again. She's like, "Wow, what does it feel like to be kicked in the balls?"
That's a decent follow-up question.
Yeah, fair.
But I mean, you don't really, I don't have any context for that. Like, how would I explain getting kicked in the balls? I'm like, you just have the air driven out of you. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't.
Excruciating pain and having the air driven out of you.
Mm.
And I only know that because I have some not so nice friends.
Mm.
I had quite a few.
It's happened.
I had a group of friends.
I was in the Boy Scouts.
I don't know what, I was not in this or little joke that they had going around. It was like 4 of them, and I was the odd man out. But they would just go around and just punch each other in the balls for no reason.
Was that Rochambeau?
I don't know if that was the name of what they were doing.
Mm.
Okay.
Have you ever looked up that Instagrammer guy who has the I forget what his whole thing is, but he has these retreats where dudes stand around naked and slap their own balls in front of each other. And it's this like reclaiming your manhood movement thing. Have you seen that? I watched this interview where this guy went and interviewed this dude. And this guy looks crazy as shit. He has the craziest eyes. When you watch him on Instagram, you're like,
guy's
wow,
reels.
This guy's
I saw this guy's videos for like a year. And I was 150% convinced it was all satire. Like, this was a parody account. This was a gig that he did. Like, and he was committed to the bit. But then I actually looked it up, and no, he is 100% serious.
So, okay, let me get this straight. This gentleman has a retreat where men sign up, essentially pay him so they can stand around naked and slap their balls in front of each other.
And growl.
Growl.
Yes. He has a whole bunch of other stuff he does too. Don't assume that's the end of it.
And this activity is supposed to be something to help them reclaim their manhood.
Amos.
Please
This-
give me more
I'll give you more time, and then I'm turning off my phone.
Okay, but can you also give me a snack?
No.
Okay.
Okay, bye, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Amos. I figure it was only polite. I don't know if he could actually hear me.
Okay, all right.
I might have to
Yes,
do
they
some
pay
editing on
money.
this one.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, they actually pay, and he has a whole philosophy where it involves drinking your own urine. Because during the interview, this guy's talking to him, and he's like, "So you do that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he literally pulls his pants down, pees in a bottle, and then starts drinking it during the interview. And the interviewer's face is like, "Hold, like don't." You can tell this guy is like, "What is happening?" And then he's like, "You spend 30 minutes in the morning," and he like has this slap routine that he does with his balls. And then he has this whole like semen retention thing that he does to like retain his manpower. It's the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I'll find the link and send it to you. It's worse than Red Snow, so it should give you context.
I thank you. You're welcome to send the link. I may never touch it.
I got to the part
Because-
where he lifted the bottle and I was like, out. I can't watch this man drink his own warm urine. Speaking of warm piss.
Warmpus.
warm.
Oh, no. Sorry. How I Met Your Mother flashbacks.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
Uh,
So anyway, that's not a thing that that's what those kids that joke about slapping each other's balls grow up to become, I think. The kind of people that pay to go on a retreat where you slap your balls in front of people.
I'm not sure that my friends ever got to the point where they're like, you know what, we could probably make money doing this.
Well, their loss, I guess.
I mean, you have to be some kind of an entrepreneur to turn punching somebody in the balls into, well, I mean, I guess
Mhm.
Jackass exists for a reason.
Yeah, but that's a whole different vibe.
That's
just-
not reclaiming your masculinity. That's more
Right.
of humiliating your friends and emasculating them
Right. Yeah.
and hoping they can recover. So, getting back to the film.
Mhm.
Man, that just kind of wiped my mind of like everything that was going on in this film. I watched it
You're like-
twice.
What?
I watched it once all the way through, and then I tried to watch it a second time today, and I got through it in a couple of pieces. Like it's like I watched a
Yeah.
little bit during my lunch at work, and then I watched the rest while I was cleaning shit up at home, and I feel like I invested too much time in it.
It's a good put it on in the background movie and then tune in every once in a while like, what's happening right now? What? That's crazy. Because there's definitely long periods where it's like them getting to know each other. And that's kind of fun. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, okay.
She feels mildly psychotic.
Well, I think that's good because
Some
that
of her
makes the ending make
tendencies.
more sense. Because she's like, it's a vampire, yay! And like that's her immediate reaction is like, oh, good, I finally got one. Like they're real. And then I think I liked it because I know those people that would meet a vampire and be like, cool, he must be really nice. Like he could be one of the nice ones. And then the twist at the end, kind of twist, where you're like, oh, wait, no, he's actually like one of the worst. And then he almost gets her again, where he stands up to the other vampires to save her. And then she looks over and she's like, is that the sweater I gave you? Because the sweater she gave him is all covered in blood. And he's like, oh. And then she just shoots him with the crossbow, like no
Yeah.
hesitation.
I think here's the thing is that I think that he had a change of heart. So she won him over, but he had laid out so many lies in the process. Like basically trying to preserve himself because he was too weak.
Yeah.
She had won him over, that's why he protected her. But his instincts are his instincts. I mean, he did
Yeah.
rip that guy's head off while
Right.
wearing her sweater.
Which just feels inefficient, honestly.
Well, I mean, how else are you going to play hacky sack?
With that.
Just-
I think the ending is what made this movie memorable for me. The twist at the end where she's not just simping for him the whole time, where it ends up being like a reversal of who's the actual victim.
Right. It starts off where she's enamored with him,
Yeah.
but after she gets kicked out of her house, she realizes all three of them are
Douchebags.
no bueno.
Yeah. And that's why I think I enjoyed it and remembered it enough to recommend it, was that if it had ended with him being like, but I want to be a good guy now, and she being like, yay, and them together, I'd have been like, get a final. What's not memorable, but the like, oh, okay, never mind. Shoots him with the crossbow and then imprisons him and starves him so that he'll give her book advice.
Which
Right.
doesn't seem like it's an effective process at all.
I mean, maybe it's satisfying. Like, maybe it's not effective in that he
At
gives
the
her good
end?
advice.
I think it's just cathartic to have the thing that tormented you under your control.
Yeah.
That's the only part that I felt was like Misery-esque.
Yeah.
That bit at the end where she was basically just kind of keeping him under control to help with her book. So I'm not
Right,
mistaken.
It wasn't really misery
No.
because he wasn't producing the content.
Well, and she wasn't like, that's the only time she harms him.
Yeah, because in Misery, I believe she kept him hoping that he would rewrite the book. Like after she found out that he killed off this character that she loved.
Yeah.
And so she was basically forcing him to rewrite his book and keep the character alive. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the plot of the whole movie, not just the
Yeah.
last 5 minutes.
Right.
And it almost gives the twist away, which I think the twist is the funnest part. So I'm glad I didn't read anything about it. I just put it on. And so I'm kind of glad I didn't, because that would have given away the ending.
Oh, I didn't read anything about it either. I just kind of popped it on. I looked at the cover. I was like, oh, yeah, this is a B movie.
Yeah, the cover
Definitely.
has nothing to do with what's happening. It's like evil eyes. The cool, like the beginning where we see the blood and the blood makes the like highlights the text. That was a cool effect. There was definitely some cool moment. Like I liked the time passing with the advent calendar. I liked the title reveal with the like blood on the snow. That was cool. It looks so cold. This whole movie looks so cold.
She was like in a cabin in the mountains, or wasn't she?
She's on
supposed
Lake
to be?
Tahoe. Yeah.
Lake Tahoe. Okay.
Yeah, similar.
Well, she's gotta like
similar
run around in
latitude
the
to
snow.
northern Michigan.
Yeah, she's got to run around in the snow in her little nightie. That's got to be freezing. She's got to tromp around in like a hoodie. She just looks
I mean,
so cold. This whole
Around
thing.
Lake Tahoe in the winter, I mean, is it even feasible to run around in your nightie in the winter?
No, that's why
Not
she's
for
mad at him.
long.
She's like, "You didn't protect me. You kicked me out of my house in my nightie. Like I could have died of exposure."
Right. It was only luck that she was able to get into the car.
Like, this is a guy who has the physical ability to tear somebody's head from their body, and he apparently succumbs to a headlock.
Yes.
Brock's
Correct.
headlock.
Well, maybe if the candy elves had been there to help him.
Brock doesn't really speak much in this movie.
No,
No.
he's just there to be the first guy murdered. That's
Yeah.
that's his entire purpose.
First
And he's
vampire
totally-
dead.
Totally third wheeling it. He doesn't even get to sleep in a bed. He's got to sleep downstairs on the couch.
Right. Poor guy.
Well, he's the guard dog.
Yeah. Not a very good one, but yeah.
No, not at
I love
all.
how she wakes up for no reason. She just like sits up because she hears the door. He gets dragged out of the fucking house and he never wakes up. Like she wraps him in a blanket and like pulls him out, has to put him on the sled and then pulls him out. And he doesn't wake up till the blanket falls off of his face.
Right. Apparently, that's enough of a barrier for sunlight.
Yeah. But then she wakes up like immediately.
I mean, it's not direct sunlight, so I guess, cloth. You could run
I
around.
guess. Well, because it doesn't burn them, it just hurts. He's like, it just hurts really, really bad.
That's why you see
great.
so many bedsheet ghosts running around. It's just
Yeah.
vampires protecting themselves from the sun.
That's fair. I get that. Maybe really heavy makeup works, and that explains the whole goth trend.
I would hope not. Like pancake makeup, just.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you might as well just be a vampire mime.
I mean, that could work. I mean, there's definitely, you
Ooh,
know,
French mimes are vampires.
mm-hmm. No one would suspect.
No, I mean,
Could
they're
get
completely quiet.
You could get away with anything and just be like, not me.
Who, me? I'm in a box.
He refuses to speak in his own defense. He refuses to speak at all, sir. So,
It's the whole thing. He doesn't
Mhm.
talk.
and then she kills the like vampire chick with bamboo skewers, like bamboo skewers that she's made into a cross. I was like, that
The
went
most
through
ineffective cross.
that went through the breastbone. You gotta.
Where did the
You're like-
cross that she found in the back of the van go?
It's in that bag that she abandoned like immediately.
Right,
She has
but
like
why
the
would-
whole bag crossbow thing. And she just like throws the bag and runs as soon as somebody chases her. She's like, fuck the bag, and runs off.
I'm not 100% convinced that like bamboo skewers can penetrate the heart.
Or the breastbone, because she goes straight in through the
Straight
front.
through the sternum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of
Right.
my pet peeves is when they stake vampires directly through the breastbone. Like that's a plate. That's a bony plate right
I
there in
mean,
the
she
front.
found decent weaponry. She found a cross. She found what looked like a stake. I mean, it was kind of thin. It looked like
It was a
maybe
bamboo thing. It was bamboo. It was like a sliver of bamboo. I mean, that would work. I mean, because then you could go through the
Yes.
ribs. I actually thought that was pretty clever.
That would actually go in between the ribs.
yeah.
At least that looks like a blade. The bamboo cross made out of basically what were
Bamboo
those, like,
skewers. The little
bamboo
kebab
skewers,
skewers.
yeah.
Yeah, and you
That's
bind up a bunch
ineffective.
of bamboo strips, and it's pretty sturdy.
I mean, honestly, is it any worse than the tongue depressor cross from Salem's Lot?
Okay, fair.
He prays over it though. At least he does the Lord's Prayer over it.
I like that one of my favorite lines of questioning in the movie when she's trying to get to know him, and she's like, okay, well, like, what are the rules, this, that, and the other thing, and she gets to the part with the holy water, and she's like, does holy water work? Well, it depends on the priest.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's a priest that diddled some kid, then yeah, probably not.
yeah. And then they reference it later. He's like, didn't he tell you this is hit or miss now? Like holy water's not as effective as it used to be. You're like, oh, that's wow. We watched that oh my god, what movie is it with Jack Black where the kid's trying to write a letter to Santa and he writes Satan
It's
instead?
Oh,
just
yeah.
Dear Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a good movie, but there was a couple of really funny jokes, and one of them was, was like, "Don't be scared of me, kid. I'm not a trusted family member."
He-
Yes,
Out
humor for
laughing.
the adults.
There was a couple where I was like, "Oh, that was dark. That shit was dark. That one was dark." There was a couple others that.
He laid out a
I
few
wonder
dark
how
jokes
much
in
of
that
that
movie.
was Jack Black ad-libbing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good one where he's like, "I'm not going to touch you, kid. I'm not a trusted family member," and you're like, "Oh, ouch. Oh."
He, I mean, that was supposed to be like, what, a PG-13 movie?
It was not a good movie, but yeah.
It wasn't.
75% of it was great, and the last 25% was like,
Yeah.
what? Did you not know how to end
Okay.
this?
I have to preface this by saying I recently did a guest spot on Two Chicks Talking Flicks, and just before watching Dear Santa, I had spent the previous 3 days watching 13 separate versions of A Christmas Carol. 14 if you count the Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, which technically isn't a Christmas thing.
Wow.
So you were not in a right state of mind.
No.
After I watched some weird versions of A Christmas Carol. So after watching that many versions of that, going over to Dear Santa and Jack Black's humor, while it was kind of watered down a little bit,
It can only go up from where you were.
yeah, there was only up from watching Henry Winkler as Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
So, if you ever get a chance to watch A Christmas Carol from 1979 starring Henry Winkler, set fire to the television set and walk the other way.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good. I mean, the Muppets did it best, and I haven't watched any version since the Muppets
Yeah,
did
you
it.
can't beat it.
I still contest that the Muppet version of A Christmas Carol is one of the better ones. Not so much for the Muppets themselves, but Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge is just spot on.
Yeah.
It contains the most content from the book. It is one of the most book accurate adaptations. I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. I've been watching it since it came out in like 1993.
It's a tradition.
My niece
this
only
household.
watches the Muppet Christmas Carol because it's the only one I will watch. Matt is the ghost of Christmas Present. Last time we watched
I'm a
it.
large absent-minded spirit.
Last time we watched
got
it, he
the
was
big
like,
beard this year.
he's like, oh my God, it's me.
I mean, that works. You just got to get the wreath, the crown going
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I need.
Well, you need the robes too.
And the robe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could recommend a version of A Christmas Carol to you, The Man Who Saved Christmas. Oh, not The Man Who Invented Christmas. My apologies.
Okay.
I said the name absolutely wrong. The whole idea is it is a movie revolving around the creation of the book A Christmas Carol.
Okay, so it's about Charles Dickens.
So it's about Charles Dickens and
A
him
19th
basically.
century novelist.
Yeah. He is the
A
Scrooge of his
Charles
own
Dickens.
story.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And the Scrooge in the film is basically a mental apparition portrayed by Christopher Plummer.
Dan Stevens.
Christopher Plummer. Nice.
Christopher Plummer.
Dan Stevens,
Charles
shut up. We're
Dickens.
watching it now. Hell
Dan
yeah.
Stevens as Charles Dickens.
All you had
Oh,
to
yeah.
do was say Dan Stevens,
Hold on,
Chris, and I was going to watch
this
it.
is what came up when I searched it.
It's well worth watching.
Okay, we're done now. We're going to watch
Yes,
it.
it's him in 18th century suit.
Dan Stevens, full stop. I'll watch anything with him in it.
It's definitely a good palate cleanser after this movie.
Yeah.
It really
that's
is.
fair. He's in some. I like Dan Stevens. He makes bold choices. 'Cause, you can't watch it thinking that's going to be a great movie. You can just watch it going, I'm going to enjoy Dan Stevens in this movie. Like that's the only thing you can go into it with.
Tubi actually pulled a fast one on me while I was watching Red Snow today. So I had watched most of it, and I had to leave the room for a minute near the end. And basically starting dinner, getting things ready. And when I came back, it had gone into another movie. So it had played another vampire movie called Vampire Lake or something to that nature,
Okay.
which was an equally bad B-movie film, but it was on the same visual quality that I
Yeah.
had to stop for a minute. Like, I don't remember this from the first time I watched this.
Wow. I don't remember this scene.
And then it was the opening scene to Vampire Lake, which is much worse than what I watched. Basically, this woman gets attacked, and just as whatever is approaching her, she turns around surprised, and then we close in on some trees, and you hear a loud shriek, and then Vampire Lake, and I'm sitting there, oh, okay, this is a different movie.
Oh, I get it now. I mean, I think Red Snow is worth a watch. I enjoyed watching it the first time, and it was, if you're not in the right mindset, I can see where it would be difficult to get through, but it's just cute, and all the little practical effects are well done.
Given the way it was pitched to me, I was extremely impressed with the quality of filming.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nice, tight little B movie that's fun to watch.
It was well shot. The practical effects were done extremely well.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I
for it to-
enjoyed like I said, I'll just repeat myself. I enjoyed a lot of the humor in the film.
Yeah.
If that humor wasn't there, or if it didn't fall correctly, then this would just be a terrible, terrible film for me to watch.
It was fun. I mean, it is what it is. It's a little it's a B movie. It's free on Tubi. Watch it and enjoy it. And
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure that I would pay a rental fee for it.
no, I don't
No.
think I would. I'm glad they're getting paid because I watched the commercials because I don't know that I would pay otherwise to watch this movie. But it's good.
I'd like to see them advance their craft, though. I don't think that there's a lot of good elements there that you could cobble into a decent career. It's just
I want to
that
know what
one, for
happens
me.
in the sequel when he escapes.
Red Snow 2. The
Red
Revenge.
Snow 2.
Mm.
Yeah.
Luke's Revenge.
No vampire
Doesn't
Luke.
that doesn't have a lot of punch to it. Just Luke's Revenge.
No, it's like Zach. Nobody's naming their vampire character Zach. Like, I agree.
Ooh, how about
Vladimir
Luke's
was a bad
Legacy?
name. Dawn of Luke.
Luke's.
Luke Warm.
I was just about to say lukewarm. You beat me to
Oh,
it by like
where
a
he
split
turns
second.
back into a human.
Because she starves him long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just lukewarmed over.
Yeah. Luke warmed over. That'd be the sequel.
Oh,
It's-
so that has to be like the headline: lukewarm, Red Snow 2.
It turns out the candy elves are real and they come and help him escape. It's like,
Oh,
see,
well-
I didn't make them up. That's why it wasn't weird to joke about it.
One candy elf helps him escape because he wants to kill himself.
Mm. And that's what they do.
So technically, it's the revenge film for the candy elf, not for Luke.
Right. It rides off on a unicorn.
Candy elf on the last unicorn.
The last unicorn theme plays in the background.
That's how Luke ends up biting it at the end, just a unicorn horn through the heart.
Yeah. See, that would work.
The skewered.
And then it's left ambiguous whether this was actually all happened or whether this was her next book.
I guess the twist at the end is the rejection letter for that one.
Yeah. Like, this has nothing to do with your first book. I know, but this
I
one
like it,
actually
yeah.
happened.
This one really happened. It happened that way. This is ridiculous. Nobody's going to read this. Nobody even
Candy
wants
elves?
to watch this.
That's a really weird thing to make up. I know, but candy elves are cool. Like, just carry the candy elf theme through the whole. And then the third
Commit to
book,
the bit.
is just candy elves. Like, none of the original characters come back. None of the original plot lines come back. It's just candy elves taking revenge.
Extended universe novel.
So she's got to fight off all of the candy elves.
Yeah. No, she's
Put 'em
in like the
back
first
into
2
extinction.
seconds. And that's it. Like American Psycho 2, where Patrick Bateman isn't even in it. He has like a hand cameo in the first 5 minutes, and that's it. Like, that's how we do it. Like, she's not even in it. There's just her book in the background at one point.
This is
Mhm.
her basically outing the candy elves is why they have to hunt her down.
Yeah,
But she never appears in the movie.
never.
They never find her.
You find out she died a long time ago, and they just lost track of time because they're candy elves.
Right? Because their sense of time is not our sense of time.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Time passes quicker. Well, quicker for us than for them. Maybe.
I mean,
I'm overdoing
sure.
it.
We're making up candy elves right now. We can do whatever we want to do. I like
Okay,
it.
so
This
if we're
is now
making it
this
up,
is a
what
fully
the fuck is
fleshed
a
out.
candy elf?
I don't know. It's got to be something not related to candy. That's the only way this makes sense.
The only reason why they call them candy elves is because essentially they're just elves, but vampires, when they drain them, it tastes like candy to them.
That would work. And they
So-
hate the nickname because they're
Can't-
actually serious elves.
Right? Drow.
Yeah.
Just serious,
Full underdark.
evil elves, like dark
Yeah.
elves, you know?
Yep.
And
Hey, which means we get to have Dritz in the third one.
Hey.
Who doesn't want Dritz to Erden?
what?
The
R.A.
most famous drow elf?
Come on. R.A. Salvatore wrote a whole book series about
Okay.
Dritz Do'Urden, and he's this super powerful scimitar wielding, not a bad guy drow. He's born in Menzoberranzan, I think. And he ends up
in
not
the
being
Underdark.
and not being a bad guy. And so he basically leaves because he's like, I don't want to be a bad guy. And so he tries to go up to the surface, but he's drow. And so everybody's like, oh, you're totally a bad guy. And he's like, but I'm not, though.
No.
And he goes on a bunch of adventures.
I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I did not read a lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Nobody
Uh,
writes a fight scene
the-
like R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah, the R.A. Salvatore's Drizzt books are the only Forgotten Realms novels that I've read.
They're good.
I think as far as I got into reading the Dungeons and Dragons stuff is I read a pretty decent chunk of the Dragonlance novels.
Mm.
So I didn't. Was that Margaret Weiss?
Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
So the R.A. Salvatore stuff I did not get to read. That doesn't mean that
good.
I can't, eventually bring it up on Audible.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the only reading I get done lately.
Hey, it's reading, so go for it.
Right?
I'm
I'm
trying to make
consuming
my
on
way.
average a book or two a week.
Oh, that's great. I'm trying to make my way through the Brandon Sanderson Stormlight archive, and they are not even
Chunky.
an exaggeration, like 62 hours per audiobook.
But
And
that's
if
good.
you want to
That's a
know
lot
what
of
that
content.
translates to in a book, it's like this. So when you sit down to read it, it's intimidating. And so I've been listening to them because they feel more consumable as a listening.
Yeah.
So that's like an
Totally.
Oxford dictionary worth of material there.
Yeah, it is. And they're good. They're worth it. But they are long as shit. And so I don't know. I just don't have time. I don't have like 6 hours a day to sit down and read this. It would still take me 2 weeks. That long of a book. And so that way I can listen in the car. I can listen when I cook, do a lot of stuff. So
I mean, I could sit down and read, but then I wouldn't have time to spend time with family because
Right.
I am unfortunately a very slow reader. Because my ADHD makes it so I will get through several paragraphs and then my brain will go, wait a minute, and then I have to go back, reread the last paragraph. It's terrible.
yeah, I get it.
So
Hey, that's what audiobooks are for. Matt reads audiobooks exclusively for that reason
Yep.
because he just retains them better when they come in audio than sitting down and reading them on a page.
And then I can have like a home DIY project, whatever, and I listen to the audiobook while I do that.
I will
However-
say that
Your brain has one language processing center, and so it literally doesn't know the difference between reading it and listening to it. Amos,
I already approved it.
Please get me a snack.
Oh.
in 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right, love you.
Well, you too.
Bye.
I'm terrible at editing. Let's see how this works out.
Just listen for the and there's 3 of them. So remember, you gotta cut
This-
out 3. 1, 2, 3.
3 separates, yeah.
So anyway,
Everything before this was edited out.
yes.
There. Now I have a point of reference.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to listen to books, you want to read books, all good. No, I don't understand the kerfuffle. It's because it's become this competitive, like trophy wielding thing. And honestly, it should just be about engaging with the story. So as long as you're engaging with the story, who really cares?
Right. I mean, some people
How?
have the power to, I don't know where they find the time, but they have the power to drive through, like physically read 2 or 3 books in a week. And I'm
I
sitting
mean-
here like, I can't do that. I don't have the time.
Everybody's life is structured differently. I mean, there are lots of people who have wide swaths of time that are available to sit down and read, and that's what they enjoy doing, and they find it relaxing. I can do that sometimes, but not other times. So,
My true passion is now watching boutique Blu-rays, and wild guess as to how many of the ones that I have sitting over here on the shelf I've actually watched,
10%.
at best. I have purchased so many films, and it was with the intent of sitting down with the original group that I had for the podcast. Because the whole idea was, a pile of beer, a couple of movies, some snacks, and we were just going to sit down and shoot the shit about whatever movie we watched.
Right.
And then that social circle has pretty much dissolved, and almost everything that I do now is online like this.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I feel like 2020 did that and then just drift, over time.
well, in today's society, it's difficult for people to have face-to-face relationships to begin with, and then driving everybody apart and into isolation for several months and making them realize they can do more online.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people haven't broken that habit. They can't get back to it.
I mean, we can always drink beer and watch movies remotely. So
That's a good point.
that's what Discord is for.
Yes, but can I drink
Especially
beer?
if we all wear our Apple Pro headsets together and watch the movie in a virtual space.
We don't have Apple Pro headsets. Oh,
That was satire.
you sounded like an Apple fanboy for a minute. I thought maybe the hair dye had seeped in. I don't know what's happening over there.
I was going to say, I have one thing on an installment plan over here. I can't afford the $1,000 that other thing costs.
I don't have fucking
No.
Apple anything. Shit. Well, I've got a MacBook. That's not fair. And luckily I do, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to put parental controls on the iPad that I got for my daughter, which is fucking wild.
Nice. Well,
That's just a little bit of an aside there as to why I don't buy Apple products, because the proprietariness is exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I have the iPhone, and I don't think I could go back to using Android. It's just ease of use.
Mm.
Having to relearn the basic Android setup. I've tried using my wife's phone a few times, and it makes me feel like an old dog that needs to learn some new tricks.
I mean, that's why Apple makes theirs so wildly different, is because once you learn it, it makes it
It
challenging.
locks you in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
But
it
that's-
challenging to use anything else.
But it's like audiobooks. However you want to engage with your phone is fine. Personally, I have an Android, and that's okay. But don't hate me because I have an Android, and I won't hate you because you have an Apple. And why
Yeah, if
can't
people
we
could-
be friends?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Especially now that Apple finally upgraded SMS chat to RCS chat.
Yeah. So we can all just chill out about it. Why? There's so many problems in life, right? There are people who can't put food on the table. Or can we stop talking about whether or not audiobooks are reading or not? We can let that go. I think we're safe. I think we're all safe. It's fine. No one's threatened by that. It's not harming anyone. It's a debate that can just die.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That's how I feel personally about the whole thing.
At least now I can see my Android friends' read receipts.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Now they have to figure out how to turn that off for themselves. Oh no, people hate it. People of my own daughter has turned off her read receipts. So she's like,
Interesting.
Do
she
people
doesn't want me
care?
to know that she's read what I have sent her, because she wants to
Ah.
respond in her own time.
Gotcha.
And so it's sort of a damned if I do, damned if I don't thing. It's like, well, if I sent you some important information that I need an immediate reply on, and I just wait and wait, I don't know if she's actually seen it, if
Right.
she's contemplating an answer. And so she thinks I'm a little bit of a pest. I can be kind of a pest in that way.
I mean, if you need an answer, you need an answer.
I said, she goes, "Do you do this to other people in your life, Dad?"
Yeah, probably.
I said, well,
it's literally your job.
Yeah. It's fine.
I
That's
said-
what kid our daughter has become so judgmental of dad jokes or stupid puns. And so every time you make one, she goes, "Ah." And now I do it just for that.
Oh yeah,
It's a-
100%.
I'd have given up long ago, but now that you're
Now I'm incentivized
"Oh."
to do it because I get a
God.
reaction.
"You're only groaning because you're not as funny as me."
What'd you say? The
You
other
didn't
day,
think of it first.
Matt made a joke about, I don't know, some offhand, that's what she said type joke. And so she goes, I know what that means. And it starts groaning. Ah! It's like,
I know
mean,
that you know what that
okay.
means. That's why I did it.
that's why I did it.
But then later she admitted that she did not know what
She was
that
like,
meant.
but what did it mean though?
She said it sounded like you were saying something fun and flirty to Mama. I said, yeah, that's
That's
what
pretty
it
much
was.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was so cute. But anyway,
In certain
like,
contexts, it's a little bit more than just flirty.
Well, yeah.
it's marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just say that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sitting down and subjecting me to this film.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really appreciate it. It was something that I hadn't seen before, and I think some of the other things I had recommended or mentioned I had already seen. So
It was
it's always better to go with something I haven't seen previously.
And it is it's interestingly unique in the way the story plays out.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously most of our problems are execution, which is just like it's a B movie. They can do what they can do.
I mean, I went into the movie with the wrong expectations completely.
That's
so I was
fair.
looking for that tether with Lost Boys in Misery, trying to,
Right.
and I'm like, this isn't Lost Boys or in Misery.
Right. It's better
This
to
is-
just go in
Yeah.
cold into this movie. No expectations.
This is what you would get if Hallmark tried to write a horror film,
Yeah, that's fair.
basically.
Yeah.
Make it kind of like Lost Boys and kind of like Misery, and then they get this back, and they're like, I don't see any of that in there.
Yeah. Lost Boys in that there is more than one vampire. And Misery in that somebody writes a book. Like that's
Somebody
not-
writes a
that's
book.
not- they are related.
Somebody writes a book, and a man is held captive.
Yeah, but not the guy who wrote it. So that's not.
Right.
But
That's
Yeah.
No,
It's kind of, but it's one of the Lost Boys that gets held captive.
right. But I feel
So-
like every vampire story that has more than one vampire in it since Lost Boys is like it's like Lost Boys, and it's like it's not like Lost Boys. That's
Which Lost Boy
entirely
do you think
different.
that Luke is?
Oh, Marco.
Which Lost?
the glittery one, right? The one that spews out the glitter when they.
The one that's like garlic don't work, boys. The one where he does it. Try holy water, death breath. That one.
All right, I'll give you that. Yeah, yeah.
That's his only line in like the whole movie. I think he has one on the train trestle where he's like, "How about you, Paul," or whatever, and like that's the only time. One of them has no lines, and I think it's Paul. And then one of them has one line, and it might be Marco.
Bill Winters.
Yeah, the one who's also he's in like Bill and
Ted's
Ted.
Excellent Adventure. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he gets one, and then he dies like in the cave, so he's not even at the house.
that movie did not show his skills in acting at all.
No,
No.
Like he had a sketch comedy show of his own, which is deeply,
Oh, that
deeply
would be
weird.
interesting
Oh.
to watch.
interesting.
Uh,
Yeah, he did Bill and Ted. He did that, and then he was like never in anything else.
I'm good.
Well, I don't know if it was him or if it was he just never got. They were like, I don't know, which one are you? Are you like the stoner surfer guy, or are you the like mute vampire? I don't know which one you are. With the mullet, he has the most gorgeous mullet out of maybe Paul, the dark haired one,
yeah,
but he has the like perm mullet.
the
Mhm.
Like-
curls. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
God,
that's
that
just his
movie is a
natural
treasure.
hair, though.
that movie is a treasure. I want to know, like, was that his hair? And then he had to cut it for Bill and Ted. He was like, oh no, I got the curl mullet.
I mean, it was a tighter curl mullet. If
Yeah.
you think about it, I mean, Bill, his hair in that, he was Ted, right? No, he was Bill.
I can never remember. And then I actually watched a funny interview with Keanu Reeves where the guy was like, so when you were trying to be Ted, because it's Ted Theodore Logan Esquire, and then there's Bill, but I
Bill.
can't remember.
It's like Bill S. Preston.
Yeah, Bill S. Preston.
That's him. I think Bill is Bill, I think.
Okay. Yeah, because the guy, whatever the interview I watched, the guy calls Keanu Reeves the wrong one, and he's like, well, I was that one actually, and the interviewer just leaves because he's like, never mind, I can't keep this going on here.
Oh,
I get like
I'm
I
too
have-
embarrassed
Okay.
now.
I have watched Lost Boys far more times than I have ever watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So I'm just gonna.
I will say that I have watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure several times, and every time that I watch it, I realized I wasn't paying attention to when I watched it the last time.
Yeah, I know he
Like,
wears a
oh.
crop top. He
Mhm.
wears a crop top. I know that much because we dressed.
Oh,
A
the
friend and I
mesh
dressed
crop
up as
tops.
them, and I dressed up as the Keanu character because I had the vest and then the like pants
Mhm.
with the patches on them that's like save the humans, and it's a whale. But I can never remember which one's which. So
I am assuming Bill is Bill.
let's go with that.
It's just an
I think
assumption
that's
I'm making.
fine. This podcast isn't technically about Bill and Ted, so we can be wrong about it. It's
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
It's about Red Snow, not Bill and Ted
Right.
Snow. No. Anyway,
We
thank
got
you.
here from Lost Boys. Were you wondering?
This is how I kind of infused the podcast with a little bit of ADHD.
Mm.
Just how did you get there from here? I have no fucking clue.
Well, you asked me
None.
which Lost Boy Luke would be, and then we
Oh,
went
okay.
from there to Bill is in Lost Boys, and so Bill is also in Bill and Ted. So it was a hop.
A small side tangent about Bill's career
Acting.
as a sketch actor.
Yeah, he got to come back for Bill and Ted 3. I always love when they
Right.
drag. There's like the one actor that made it, and he's been in everything, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back and be in this like canonical thing that I was in, like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure," and they have to pull the other guy out of like whatever suburban hellscape he has lived in for the. He's been working at like a grocery store or something for like 30 years, and Keanu Reeves rolls in, and he's like, "Man, do you want to be Bill again?" And he's like,
you back.
"Yes." Like I always want to be in the room when they announce it to that guy that's like, "Do you want to be an actor again?" And he's like, "Oh my god, yes." Like,
It's like it's gotta have
God,
that thing where in
please.
the back of his head he's like, I don't really have a choice, do I?
no.
Like, this is gonna go on, and it's gonna go one of two ways. It's either gonna go Bill and Ted are back, or Ted is back somehow, Bill died.
Yeah.
or they recast Bill and they just never mention it.
Yeah.
Who could you even recast him with?
Nobody.
There's like
You-
nobody that has that vibe. Like
you just
what,
deep
Steve
fake him.
Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi.
I mean, Steve Buscemi's got the eyes for it.
You do it and you
You're
make
not
you
wrong.
never make any comment about it. You just
Yes.
you can either go look alike or you can go way out in left field. And I think you went lay out in left field, but I think that would work.
Yeah, you just
Something
never
happened
mention
with
it.
like the phone booth and like just aged Bill like
And
infinitely.
You just gaslight all the viewers.
You're like,
No,
he was
No,
always
this
always
is
been
literally
this.
the same
he
actor.
was always Steve Buscemi. What is I don't understand.
Just
like-
go back and put like a special edition out where you
Yeah.
Change the
just
IMDb
CGI
credits.
Steve Buscemi's face onto the other.
Retcon it
Like
completely.
Disney does.
Yeah, like Disney does. Like they did with Hayden Christensen in the Return of the Jedi, where they took out what was his name? Sylvester or something. And then they put in Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
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 I was-
George Lucas was already making some mistakes with that franchise. Before.
There was a meme circulating not too
Handed that
long
over.
ago about that. And it was like, I watched the special edition and Hayden Christensen walked out instead of the original guy. And I knew I was never going to be able to trust movies ever again. I was like, you're not
Han
wrong.
shot first.
Like, that's not supposed to be there, right? Now you're going through your collection like the original edition. Like,
Like, wait a minute. I remember
you know
this.
he wasn't in that before.
Right. Like, he wasn't there. They rearranged the Han shooting scene thing.
I think
Which
they
was-
rearranged it like 3 different times.
They did. They did. And I
Han
used to have a
shot
shirt
first,
that
Greedo
said Han
shot
shot
first.
Han shot first. I used to have a shirt that said Han shot first because it was such a big controversy when they first changed it. Because they were like, "No, Han's not the type who would wait to be shot at first." And I'm like, I agree. Anyway, so that's why I don't watch Star Wars anymore.
Well, it doesn't mean that he waited. Greedo could have just been quicker on the draw.
Yeah, but theoretically, Han's supposed to be the quickest. Like, it's supposed to be a whole thing. It's supposed to set up his character as this guy that's just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Shoots first
and
and
then
asks
leaves.
questions later.
And they changed it, and it kind of changes his character introduction. But
Putting him
And
on
so-
the losing end would definitely change the introduction to his
it
character.
would, because then he would just not be in it. Then you could go back and put Steve Buscemi over all of the Han characters from there.
I completely agree with this. We need to start retconning a lot of movies, just CGIing Steve Buscemi's face into like major roles.
Yeah.
We definitely have to do this.
Or late stage Rutger Hauer. You could go either way. I'm still here for your series, the Rutger Hauer Power Hour. Like, anytime you want to roll that out, we will join
We're
you.
down.
Okay, wait a minute. When did I agree to that?
You didn't. I just made it up and then I attributed it to you so that it would reflect back and we could do it.
There are a lot of really fun Rutger Hauer films, though.
There is a movie where he plays a Native American
You
paraplegic
mentioned
guy
that to me,
who
and I went and found a clip of it, and I was like, "Oh my god, where's this film?"
he saves the Olympic swim team. And there's a scene where he has like the braids and he's in a wheelchair and he like throws himself off the wheelchair and he's like shooting people as he rolls.
He has played some seriously weird shit.
Murder Hobo. There's so much fodder there.
You
So.
got that, of course. The lead vampire in Buffy.
Yeah, that's always a good
Blind
one.
Fury was a great film.
Yeah.
So,
He's in that one where he has the neck thing that will blow up if he gets too far away from. He's like in a prison, and everyone in the prison has a neck collar. And
was
someone,
that the second Fortress movie?
I can't remember what it's called, but like one other person in the prison is your teammate. And if you're
Oh.
too far away from each other, your head will explode, but you don't know who the other person is. So he ends up figuring out who his like other half is, and they escape together, but they don't previously know each other. So it's this whole thing.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm gonna have to go look that up because I have no idea. I want to say it's the Fortress, but that may not be entirely.
I don't
true.
think it's a sequel to anything, but I don't know that for sure. I just remember because there's another movie we watched that had a similar premise. And they were like, oh, this is exactly like this really obscure Rutger Hauer movie. They must have copied it. And I'm like, they probably didn't even know that existed. Like, that's not, I'm pretty sure that's not.
So, I think the original Fortress was Christopher Lambert.
Well, I mean, also a good one, but doesn't quite ring as well as the Rutger Hauer Power Hour.
No.
The
Rutger Hauer Power Hour. That's actually got a good ring to it.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna have
It
to
does.
figure out the Christopher
Lambert.
Lambert. Grin and
Mind
Bear
you-
It with Christopher Lambert. I don't know. We're gonna have to work on that.
We'd
when
have
we're
to keep
shopping
it to a tight 60 minutes, though. 'cause
Yes.
Power Hour.
Yeah,
So even if we continue talking, I have to hit
The-
the record
it
button,
cuts
just end
off.
it. Like,
it just got. It's fine. You
Just,
can do split second.
pre-recorded thing at the end is thank you for listening to the Rutger Hauer Power Hour. If you want to listen to the rest,
You only get the
You
first
won't be able to
60
hear it.
minutes.
I mean, because when he peaked, and when he didn't peak, he didn't peak. Like he had some wins and he had some real misses. Like we could have a lot of fun with that.
but his misses were almost as spectacular as his wins.
Right. I mean, that's
They
what
were.
he didn't fail poorly. He failed spectacularly. Like
Yes.
he succeeded spectacularly
he
and he
dared
failed.
greatly.
Yes, for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you again for talking about Red Snow, kind of, sort of, a
Yeah.
little bit.
It was sprinkled in there,
At
like
least
seasoning.
a good third of the podcast. And
We kept bringing it back. Brought it back
Yeah.
in cool ways. Yeah.
why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners where we can find you?
You can now find us at strangeandbeautiful.network.
New website.
And all of our shows are linked there. You can click on them and listen to them. We are currently working on the We Are All Kosh, which
The
is the
Babylon
Babylon
5.
5. That's our new weekly podcast. Currently, Strange and Beautiful Book Club is monthly. We may be putting out more content for that eventually, but right now we're just doing our monthly book club episodes. And if you want to know what we're reading, I post that on Instagram.
Okay. And I'm now just learning about the new website. How am I just learning about this?
Well, it used to be strangeandbeautiful.club, and then we can't fucking stop making podcasts, so it didn't make sense anymore. So now we're strangeandbeautiful.network.
So it's sort of an SAB presents kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's fine. It's kind of where I'm working towards myself, but I can't get out of the starting blocks for anything. I'm horrible. Because I keep
Well,
trying to...
You're
I
trying
had
to get
like...
a career or whatever.
Ew.
Right. I
Lame.
mean, work has to come first, family has to come first, and then I have all these ideas swimming around in my head, and then I'll drag somebody in kicking and screaming, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And then when it finally gets time to do that, they go, I got other things to do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine.
We're always here for you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me trying to pander for more attention.
We do that.
That's just me going, I have to figure out, I think my next step is I'm going to start trying to put out some sort of 15-minute bonus episodes,
Mm.
just doing solo content for a few.
That could be
Yeah.
cool. I've seen people do that.
It's an excuse to watch the shit on my shelves and just ramble about 2 or 3 movies at a time for 15 minutes in no particular order or fashion, see if I can get myself out of there in 15 minutes.
It's a good challenge.
I think that's great.
Because I think part of my problem is that I noticed I watched a few things that I've done recently, and I've zoned out of my own podcast several times.
Mm.
And I can't blame it on being a little too high now. Because I haven't had anything in a little bit. So it's like if I'm sitting on my own podcast and I don't know if it's me just not doing enough to keep information in my head or have information readily available, or if I'm approaching things a little too distracted and disinterested in some manner.
Gotta find your groove again.
Today was different. I was very interested in what we watched. Not for the best reasons, but
Listen,
I was definitely interested.
I think this was a good movie. It invited some good discussion. We got to talk about Lost Boys. We got to talk about slapping yourself on the balls just to feel like a man again.
But I sent
got-
you the reel for that.
We got to talk about
And
a lot
I
of
would
good
like
stuff.
I would like them to make a sequel. Come on. Red Snow 2, lukewarm.
It's been
I'm
3
full.
years. You can do it now.
Oh, yeah.
Red
well, we
slush.
No,
Red slush.
lukewarm.
Lukewarm
Lukewarm.
slush.
Gross. Luke, we did say warm piss. We could work. Shh, 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 shh. Chris is trying to wrap this up.
Yellow. Orange.
Yeah,
Orange snow.
Yellow snow.
Orange
Just start-
snow. What you get when you mix red snow and yellow snow.
The warm piss. And you can find our podcast pretty much anywhere where podcasts are found. I've been kind of trying to push people towards Good Pods a little bit because they have Good Pods as opposed to Spotify. And I'm not shitting on Spotify because several people listen to us there, but Good Pods has been working very hard to make their format independent podcaster friendly.
Nice.
Basically making it so you can even go in there and toggle a switch so you're only looking at independent podcasters, not the popular, like, Joe Rogans of the world.
Oh, thank God.
So
Sorry.
we've sat hovering in the top 5 with our own podcasts in different film categories for a little bit. We're constantly beat out by Death by DVD. And that's pretty much where I listen to you guys, and I listen to the other podcasts that we work with on a
And I
continual
do
basis.
see your comments, and I think about responding to them, and I click on it, and then it asks me to log in, and
then
that
you're
is
like,
a step too far.
that requires
but-
me to create an account.
But
Ugh.
I have an account. I could log in, but I don't
Oh.
wanna. So I see them. I see you.
You are
I see you.
You are seen.
I see you. Right. I really enjoyed that last podcast you guys did on what was it, Wasteland?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Stephen King.
Stephen King.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
because those 3 books, the first 3 books in the Dark Tower series, is actually what got me reading when I was younger.
Nice.
Nice.
So I can remember distinctly picking them up as a box set, or I didn't pick them up. I got them as a gift from my mother as a box set when I was like 14. I did not read at all. Like, I avoided books like the plague. I avoided them like I avoided schooling.
Mhm.
And I got the books, and it was that is it trade paper book, the larger one, the larger books,
Yeah, the
the
trade paperback.
paperbacks.
Yeah.
It was the set that had like the detailed illustrations inside. And I would go and sit down at a local pharmacy. They had an old like 50s like soda fountain thing down there, well into the 90s. So it was like definitely out of place, but it was a place that I could just go sit because nobody else would, and I would
Yeah.
just read for hours and hours on end.
Yep.
And so yeah, those particular episodes I liked, and
Nice.
go listen to them on Good Pods. I'm not even promoting my own podcast anymore. You can find us somewhere. We're
Or
out there somewhere.
I don't know.
You're obviously listening to this one.
You found me here. Find me here
If you're
again.
listening to this or watching this or whatever, there's a button somewhere that you can press to get to the audio only version of this, and then you don't have to look at me anymore. Thank you. And as Miss B always says, because I haven't figured out my own friggin' thing yet, drink some water, you thirsty bitches.
Bye.